Three. Yeah, go ahead from, okay. Great, so let's appreciate this. So let's go ahead and call to order. First up is roll call. I will do that by name so we can, since we have somebody online. Merle? Here. Kelsey?
Here.
Christine?
Here.
Crystal?
Here.
Richard?
Here.
Heidi?
Here.
And the chair is here. We have a full batch and a quorum. So if you guys would join me in the flag salute and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody tonight. Thanks for joining us. It's a little warm out this evening, but we're sliding into school time here before too long. So I'm sure you guys all have your work cut out for you for the next 2 weeks. So, but appreciate you guys being here. Everybody should have gotten the agenda, so I would entertain a motion to accept as presented.
I'll make a motion, we accept the agenda as presented. Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Public comment, I didn't see anything, Diane, if you have anything in writing, and I don't. This would be the opportunity, but it doesn't look like anybody's diving in, so we will move along. All right, so board shout out. Related to our summer learning and our summer meals, and these guys have been at it all summer and have been continuing to provide services to the students, the families here in the district, and we just want to take the time to shout out to them for spending their summers helping our students to achieve and thrive. So do you have anything to add to that?
I was gonna say, Lori said, I asked her how many meals did they serve. She said they served approximately 11,100 breakfasts and around 11,100 lunches over the course of the summer meal program.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Their work doesn't end when the
Does not end,
when
yeah.
the school goes out.
And they're still supporting our summer schools as well. So.
Yeah.
I can hear him giggling at the Hubbard Park from my house. It's nice to hear.
And that Jumpstart was fantastic. You know, I mean, I was sharing with somebody, I got to see, lots of 5-year-olds new backpacks. I think they were pretty darn excited to get in there. And then, we've still got a lot of staff supporting our kids also at the middle school and at the high school in summer school programs as we speak. So
Yeah.
really appreciate the staff who are willing to come in and give kids their time during this time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, anybody want to say anything about the summer programs?
I just think it's great having kids coming in and willing to get in there and work hard to get their credits that they didn't get during the class time. And they're making good connections with the teachers that are there helping them, and that will carry over to the remainder of the year.
And we've enjoyed it here at the middle school. They come in very quiet in the morning and then just start getting livelier as the day goes on. It's been wonderful, and watching them eat breakfast together and lunch together, kind of getting to know each other has been, and meeting. I mean, it's been really been good, like a small start. Nice.
Yeah. Well, thanks you guys for leading those and the report out on them. So
Can I say something?
sure, go ahead. Ernie.
So, we just entered our summer migrant program over at the elementary buildings, and we had a visit from Willamette ESD migrant coordinator, and he was just so impressed with our program and our students and how much of an emphasis we place not only on math and reading in our summer program, but on science. And so we were able to give him some of the science materials. We're actually using our hands-on materials where students are, actually building, little robots and flying, machines, things that don't normally happen at a lot of programs in the summer like that.
Yeah.
And so it was great. They did some filming and they were just so excited to come and visit us. So it was great. Our kids were having fun. They were very engaged. Our teachers are amazing. And so,
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thanks for reporting out on that too.
Or what can I ask, how many students do you have to come to that about?
so we had 22 students at the
That's good.
elementary level from kindergarten through 5th grade.
And then they will all be moving into kindergarten then, so they were
And
pre-K.
so the students that, for the migrant program, students, stay in their grade until September. So they were actually students who would be going into 1st grade
Okay,
this
okay,
year.
sure. Cool.
I might, while we're doing a little recognition right now, I might just say, the gift to the board is the brightness.
Yeah.
The newness in the room, so if you didn't notice, you might smell, Diane is, and the team has orchestrated, a little makeover of the room, and so, it's a lot nicer, and I think there's still some future plans to keep dressing it up, but,
You had some layers to pull down, didn't you? Well, thank you. So-
Thank you so much.
I have Desiree's on too.
Those kind of decorations.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
coming soon.
I go to those guys.
All right, moving on to 2B OSBA Summer Board Conference. I'm just gonna go down the line, and those of you attended, if you wanna say a few words and share some perspectives or thoughts, that would be great. Go ahead, Merle.
I enjoyed being there and the people that I met. For me, it was an increased awareness of what's available through OSBA and added to the burden of reading material. I especially was interested in the advocacy session, one of the last ones. One session was canceled. I was disappointed. The early learning session presenter wasn't able to be there, so that was my choice one, but I went with choice two. It was worthwhile. A couple of legislators there, and they were supportive of education and on Democrat and Republican. A room of nonpartisans. It was stimulating.
Kelsey, I know you were there, so.
Yeah, I was there Saturday. It was good. I enjoyed being there. It helped me feel a little bit more comfortable being up here. And just, I took a couple of the different workshops and learned some things and got more familiar with the process of all the things and how things work. And so it was good. It was good to be in the building with other people that are on the board and in the education atmosphere. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Well, I learned, I actually enjoyed all the seminars. I learned though that we do qualify for the rural, what is it, rural community or rural school district caucus if that comes about. So that's in the baby steps. So we should receive more information in the within September and October to see if that comes to fruition. The other thing, I loved how they went over really quickly several of the bills from legislation and that sort of thing. So it just gives you a basis to start your year on. So I really appreciated it. Did not like that it was in Salem. Just to be.
I would agree with that. Bend is always a nice getaway time of year, so, but it was convenient to make that commute, so.
Yeah, it was.
Do you have anything you wanted to add about, you were there for?
I just appreciated, the time we got to spend together, there, and it's always kind of nice to, you know, be in the same place, hear some of the same things from some of the same people and get a chance to know a little bit more about what each other's thinking about things, so, I just enjoyed being with Portland.
Yeah, I would just add to it, they asked at one point when we were all gathered in the same room, how many were new board members? There was a lot of new board members across the state because, you know, you get representation from every county in the state. But there's a lot of institutional board members there too, so there's a lot of knowledge there. It's a great place to exchange ideas, best practices, what's working, what's not. Few topics, the were of some surprise, the stipend one. I hadn't even really followed that, so that one was kind of a surprise to me. And then some of the legislative, you know, some of the legislative things, how they came to fruition and how some of them stalled out because of how the session wound down. So all in all, it was a good, I always feel like I get good information.
Yeah.
And it's a great way to be able to, even like the regional session, so we're able to, you know, get together with, you know, the other districts in our region, kind of compare notes, what's problematic for them, what's working well for them. And then still oftentimes, you know, WSD is there too, so from your perspective, but yeah. I would thank everybody for who took the time to go down. It's, you know, it does use up a weekend mostly. So.
Yeah, a little different weekend, first time they've done kind of the middle of July, usually August, usually middle of July is when that conference was held. So I think folks are weighing it out, I asked them about it, I think it was OSBA that felt like it was a little better time for them to be able to be more prepared.
Yeah, and the venue was pretty nice too, I mean, they put on.
Yeah, the venue was good. I
Yeah,
like the,
did a good job in the staff, so.
yeah.
Alrighty, moving along, we have a extended field trip to acknowledge the high school volleyball varsity team. Bonding retreat will be happening in Sun River, August 24th through the 26th. We don't need to do anything other than acknowledge it, but we do need to acknowledge that. ODE item would be 2D, ODE, state education update, OSBA updates. We actually got a pretty good encapsulation of that at the conference. I'm not gonna go into much detail other than, is there anything you need?
I've got a couple things in my report that I'll share at that time.
Okay. So moving on to item number 3 is our consent agenda. I would entertain a motion if everybody's had a chance to look over that.
I'll move we accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Has anything been added since then, and are there still openings?
No.
Nothing added to the agenda, I mean,
No,
nothing added to
to
this
the
person's
hires,
report,
HR.
yeah. We still do have a few openings, and we have some hires in process, right? Yeah.
Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of approving a consent agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That motion carries. Board action, OSBA policy review, first read and or adoption. We had the 2 things that we're dealing with.
Yeah, one is a brand new policy, and one is an update to an existing policy. And it's kind of based on the cybersecurity policy, EHB, based on increasing incidents, you know, of concerns and issues in school districts and organizations around cybersecurity. OSBA has drafted a policy. It's an optional policy on cybersecurity. But I do know that it is something that I know especially Greg has been spending a lot of time with over the course of the last couple of years and working with us. And so had Greg, of course, our IT director, review the policy And though it's optional, Greg thought it would be advisable to propose to adopt the policy. And in essence, you know, those three, the 1, 2, 3 are those three areas that and Greg has put a lot of time into and worked with us a lot on the last couple of years, making sure that, you know, we're able to keep information confidential, you know, that needs to be confidential, making sure that, you know, we don't have, you know, we have garbage in, garbage out in terms of data, so he's really kind of cleaning up our ability to enter accurate data and consistent data. So what we get from our systems is accurate. And then, again, just kind of keeping track of who has access to what. And most of the time in our schools, we want more than we always have access to, you know, for a variety of reasons. So it's, again, finding that balance between, you know, creating access so we can keep moving ahead and doing our jobs, but also making sure that we're keeping people safe. As far as the release of information and making information available. So, so that's the cybersecurity policy. For each of the policies, Greg, I don't know if you want to add anything to that or.
I think you thumbed up what we discussed, so we don't have anything to add unless there are any questions specifically.
Are we gonna do these as two? Because if so, I do have a couple questions.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and just, well, we could go ahead and share with this. Here's what, you know, I have something new and this, I usually give the board the option, you know, you can approve it for a first reading, or you can go ahead and adopt it if it's clean and easy and doesn't, you know, beg some more information. So that's, in essence, what we're recommending, is adoption of the cybersecurity policy, but it's certainly, you know, up to the board whether you want to take it as a first reading and bring it back for second reading and adoption at our next, or a proposal for that at our next meeting.
You want to start?
Sure, well, are we gonna, so we just did the background on one, so let's take them one at a time.
Yeah.
One at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question was, down near the bottom when I was reading this, it said that it had an accompanying administrative regulation, which is referred to as AR. Do we have that document and are we gonna implement that?
We have a document and we actually spent some time at cabinet going over it today. We did, you know, we just had a chance to meet together and go through that AR because I told Greg, I said, well, we want to make sure we know what what's in that AR and whether it really reflects our practice and such. So we do have an AR that will be that will go along with this.
So the other thing is, how will this affect our information sharing that we have? Oh, it was in a couple meetings ago, we have information sharing with. This might be a question for Desi. They brought it where we can, was it for teachers so that, you know what I'm talking about?
It was for trial,
Yes.
not trials is the wrong word.
Studies and research.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
For
research,
people
so.
to be able to get credentialing and all that other stuff with the data components.
But that's all blind data, is that correct? Mostly?
Yeah, and I think, what this does is it kind of sets the expectations of what we would need to follow, cause it says like, what do we need to keep private, what, you know, so this becomes kind of an overarching piece of any sort of policy that might have data sharing as part of it.
Okay, all right, I personally would like to see an AR with the policy so that I can compare and contrast, but those were my two questions I had.
Anybody else have questions? Comments?
Glenn, I had just, I guess, this is Rich, I was just, I guess I'm not really sure, you know, what the policy is here. I mean, it seems like I guess the substantive language is in item 1, which basically says, you know, only authorized users are going to be able to access the systems they're authorized for. But the rest of this, I mean, there's sort of aspirational statements in here, but I know the intent is to kind of protect information and protect confidentiality, but it doesn't really like talk about what we're doing to do that. I mean, it says the information network is going to be available, but it doesn't really talk to like how, you know, what systems or methods we're using to make sure it's secure. You know what I mean? So just a comment. Maybe there's other information that kind of supports this, that does talk about that detail, but this policy doesn't seem to have a whole lot of substance, I guess, in my mind.
Yeah, I think my response to that is your policy in essence directs us, you know, to create those procedures. And so that's, you know, in the absence of policy, we, you know what I mean, we don't necessarily have that direction to do that. So the how, you know, is really what we do, you know, as an administrative team in terms of implementing a policy.
I did have one more comment on line 2. It says semicolon end. Are they just referring to 3, or is that an error in the?
Let's see. Tell me again where you're at.
Under 2, it has the semicolon and. Are they just wanting you to refer to 3, or is that like a typo? What do you think?
I think it's a continuation.
Okay, I
One,
was
two,
just
three.
checking. I was like, I wasn't sure if something was deleted and,
Mhm.
okay.
Any other discussion, questions?
It is optional. I know we have the concern, cybersecurity. Just reminded me of, if I can draw an analogy to a concern someone in the district expressed about what was taught in the schools. They said, we need to teach children how to handle finances. And they were very concerned and upset because of the legislative walkout, and for fear that bill would never make it through the legislature. And I wanted so much to write a letter to the editor and say, you don't need to pass that bill. We can do that on this level. You know, we'll see, that would be so difficult. And I wonder if this could be the same way. Incidentally, the bill did pass. And so now it's mandated. Now someone's going to have to put curriculum together and put that in the system and do that. I would rather do it voluntarily and not be forced to and have that option. I don't know if this would fall into that category or not, but I'd raise the question.
Yeah, I think it's fine. And, you know, as a staff, we kind of have this, again, this is one of those situations where we're recommending that we have that framework, we have that direction, you know, around this work. Just because of the experiences that we've been having in the district with it. It provides a good framework for staff to work with it.
Well, I guess to your point, you know, it would seem, I guess this would be a stronger, I guess, policy to me if, rather than saying sort of, you know, the purpose of security is to do this, this, and this, if it said, you know, the district will protect confidentiality, integrity, and availability of district data. So to me, that's sort of a mandate that a policy should lay out. How you do it, you know, would be implemented in procedures and other documents, but at least then the policy would be clear that, hey, this is providing direction to staff to do these things, to protect cybersecurity, protect confidentiality, integrity, you know, privacy, those kinds of things. And it's just the way it's written, it doesn't really say that to me.
Well, it does seem like it's more of like an informational piece instead of necessarily like what Richard says, really calls out what the district's gonna do. So that's why I was like looking for the AR support to kind of see if that, you know, we have those policies that are married together. And you can kind of figure out the two of them, but I mean, because it does seem like it's just saying like, well, this is cybersecurity, and it's kind of like the HIPAA policy. It's just like here. But so
Are we able to move approval of this for first reading and anticipate the AR next meeting that we can act on.
We could certainly do the first read if we have a motion to first read, and then if you want some clarifying language or.
And I'm assuming, I'm hearing that the AR will be ready to present by then, so we can see that.
Yeah, as long as, I do want to try to be clear that, you know, your own policy says that you don't adopt ARs. The board doesn't adopt ARs.
Oh,
That you adopt the policy and then administration develops the AR. We would share we certainly share the AR, but we need a policy to develop it, you know, an AR around. We have reviewed and vetted an AR to go with this policy. But an AR is not a board, AR is not from board work, the policy is the board.
and the AR is not approved by the board.
It would, you know, your policy says that ARs do not have to be approved by the board. You can approve them, but if you get into the work of developing ARs, you're actually kind of getting
Yeah,
into.
I understand, that's your area to compose them, and I just would have assumed it was the board's prerogative to approve or not. But I knew, I didn't say it wrong. I like number 2 here, it talks about truth. What's on there is reality, truth, not something other than that.
Greg, I didn't know if you wanted to share anything, you know.
Well, in order to move this along, am I hearing a motion for a first read developing, or? We just questioning?
Can we postpone this to, our next work sessions that we can have, well, I'll make a motion that we postpone it to the next work session with the ability to make changes within it. So, that's all good. Nobody wants to, I mean, they can, whatever.
Anybody gonna second that motion? You'll second that one? Okay, so we have a motion and a second, that will be to essentially table. Is that how I'm hearing it? Until next meeting.
I have a question about that.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm just kind of curious, what are we hoping to, if we're not gonna adopt for first reading tonight, what are we hoping to see when it comes back to us? If we don't give any clarifying information on it, I mean, first reading is just saying we've seen it. And we acknowledge that, I mean, really, I think the discussion would come during our second reading. It's my understanding of how we've done policy. I'm just hoping, I just kind of would like to know what you want to see this, you know, next week. Or next
Well, I would think that we could add actual meat or substance to the policy for 1, 2, and 3. Like, this more is just like an informative. Was there any other documentation in here?
The AR gives, you know, increasing detail, you know, on. This is not an area that's black and white in a lot of areas, and that's why the policy, you know, doesn't force you into something that's not enforceable. So there's lots of gray areas in some of these decisions, and decisions that could be made along the way. This creates a framework for that. As does the AR gives a little more detail within each of these areas about consideration.
To follow up with that,
Sure,
I
go ahead,
really appreciated this handout you gave us in our board about board policy basics. And where it shows that the scale is tilted more towards broad for administrative discretion in the language that we use in general policies versus specific, you know, for clear guidance. And I get that we have to have clear guidance, and I hear what you guys are saying on that too. I can see this is very broad. On the other hand, it's just kind of like when we make a goal, we make a broad goal, and then it's not until you get down into your subsections of, you know, how you're gonna accomplish that goal. That's what the AR does for us. And this is just kind of setting the vision. And I know, like in the past, when we've dealt with like social media policies and stuff. Things just change so fast that we can't keep up. The policies become outdated really quickly if they're too specific. And so I hear what you're both saying. I kind of agree. This is an extremely broadly worded policy with just kind of
Well, I just don't
vague
understand.
language in a way, but on the other
Yeah.
hand, it gives us like, Bill was saying, a framework and somewhere to start. So, you know.
I mean, I feel like this is already in place. Do we already, I mean,
Like I said, I had asked, Greg to review the policy and he felt like it would be helpful in his role as IT director.
We don't have a cybersecurity weathering now policy.
Not a board approved one, no. We're certainly engaging in cybersecurity, but we don't have a board policy.
Yeah, we have laws and guidance and things like that we follow, along those lines, but not necessarily a policy. It's not that it's a little bit what Merle was saying, and it's not that we're gonna, that we don't have guidance in those areas that we need to follow.
Well, really, the schematic there on the board that just went away is directed at just what we're talking about. I think Heidi mentions a broad picture for administrative discretion, so you can work within that and you have some room to work. But the other side of the teeter-totter there is specific for clear direction. And so this was saying, well, we need to be sure we know where we're going. So we're clear about that. So it's a balance.
Yeah, I guess there's nothing in this draft policy that I would object to. I just, and if this gives Greg and the district, the guidance that they need to develop, more specific sort of procedures and other things to, carry out these goals, that's great. I just want to make sure this is written in the way that, that the guidance to the district is clear, what it is that we're actually trying to accomplish. But if this does it, that's great. I don't object with anything in here. I just think it could be better written, maybe.
Okay, so I have a motion on the table that's, or on the,
well, that's a good question.
Policy, yeah.
I have a motion to table this. Is there any further discussion on tabling this for a month?
Well, I'll pull my motion. I feel uncomfortable that it doesn't really give me clear guidance on what's going on.
Okay, so you're withdrawing your motion?
Yeah.
Okay, who was the second on that?
Meryl.
Are you okay with that, withdrawing? Okay, all right, so I would entertain another motion then. So we can move forward.
So I will do, that we'll do the first read.
Okay.
With the understanding that we'll see an AR, right, at some point.
Yeah, you will always
Okay.
see an AR, yeah. Absolutely.
So that's what I'll do. Not for adoption, but just first read.
One of the things about ARs and understanding is that, just like was said, things change so fast. If you vote on ARs, then you're stuck with them until you vote on them again, and they could, change every week. Something might
Right.
change, with some of those things. And so that's probably the most important. Anymore, things are so complex and changing so fast that when we have to make little adjustments in the way we're implementing the policy, it helps to have a little bit of nimbleness in being able to do that.
Okay, so I have a motion. I don't have any second yet. Is there anybody who wants to second that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I would have a point of order. If we're doing a first read and we make any modifications materially, does that need to go back to OSBA legal?
Yeah, that's
Okay,
the dangerous one.
so just know that if you guys have modifications or language changes, it probably will need to go back to OSBA for them to make sure that we're still within the legal, basis of that. That was just kind of a point of order, but just wanted to put that out.
Yeah, and for discussion purposes, I just say that, for adoption, I really am interested in the AR to make sure that the policy that I'm approving is, like, I can see how it's being implemented kind of, so I can see that it has worth. and not, I mean, the DMV has proved it has worked, but. So
Yeah, I just, you know, just so.
To get the ARs,
Yeah.
yeah, to be
It
able
is,
to,
absolutely, just, you know, just so, you know, Bill's brain works is that the policy gives the direction. You know what I mean, so I'm also thinking the other way around, the policy gives us the direction to go do that work.
Any other
Right.
discussion?
I guess, Bill, I guess where, could you point me to where, what language in this policy is providing the direction? I mean, what's the direction this policy is given? I just want to make sure I'm reading it sort of the same way you are. I mean, even if, you know, even if it said, you know, in the first sentence, you know, the purpose of information security is to, I mean, if it just said the purpose of this policy is to, that would be clear in my mind, but if you could just kind of point me to the direction in here, that would be helpful for me, I think.
Yeah, for me, and I think this is why, you know, this is why it's in the day-to-day. You know, we're sharing, it's helpful to us because we know what we're dealing with day-to-day, you know, in this work. And I could give you lots of examples of where these 1, 2, and 3s come into play for us, you know, in terms of the guidance that we need to give staff and want to give staff and support that we want to give staff when we're working in these areas. But there's hundreds of day-to-day interactions that we have related to those 3 areas of cybersecurity for us.
But you're reading this in a way that says, you know, the direction that the board is giving to you and to staff is to protect information confidentiality, integrity, and availability. I mean, is that the way you're reading the policy?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
There are some best practices, you know, that are outlined in the AR, you know, that we would, you know, that would help, and I'll get that to you, that helps to further define what some of those systems and processes look like.
Yeah, that's helpful, thank you.
well, yeah, for me, it's like a supporting document or supporting evidence of why you need this. Just for future reference.
I'm with you. And then just for future reference, because we vet these, as a staff, you know what I mean?
Right,
If staff recommends a policy, you know what I mean, we've kind of, you know what I mean, we've kind of established that. I'm not saying we're not giving you that AR that you want, but that's the kind of vetting that we'll always do. You know, when we got this policy, it's optional, so we weren't sure whether we should bring it forward or not. Why we had staff take a look at it and say, hey, is this helpful or not? Because we don't need policies that we don't need.
right.
So I appreciate the discussion a lot. It's helpful.
Alrighty, so the motion is to accept this first reading, EHB. If there's no other discussion, we will move to a vote. I think I'm gonna do roll call though on this vote. Merle,
Aye.
Kelsey,
Aye.
Christine,
Aye.
Crystal, Richard.
Aye.
Heidi.
Aye.
And chair votes for. Didn't need to do roll call, but it was unanimous.
It could have gone.
All right, next one up is JEBA. This is one of those ancient ones.
This is one of those, yeah.
It's been revised in there, so.
It's had some revision, you know, and the policy itself, probably the old policy wasn't comprehensive enough, you know, in terms of what we know now about, making these kinds of decisions and supporting kids and families and thinking about this. And, it wasn't reflecting really what our current practice was. It had some issues with dates, you know, that we needed to look at and things like that. And, I'll let you go ahead and share if you had some other supporting.
I think it also had some issues in terms of creating pathways for access, like one of the policies actually listed a price that people have to pay to take the test. And, you know, if we think about how do we make sure our community is served, and that's around removing barriers that potentially could create blockages to access. So, plus those, much like you guys were pointing out, those things change all the time. It listed a specific test that is now not one that is commonly used for those practices, and so just keeping it a little simpler so that we can be adaptive and nimble. This is more reflective of what we should be doing for our community. And this is well aligned, something that Dr. Rhodes had talked about was the work with TAG. This is well aligned with that as well, because this is one of those opportunities. If we have someone that is presenting early on with potential talented and gifted, this is an opportunity for them.
Can I go ahead and move that we will approve for first reading?
I'll second.
Have a motion, a second. Any more discussion?
Actually, let me go back. If, could we approve this for first reading and adoption if we want?
If you make a motion that way,
Okay,
sure.
I'll go ahead and approve for first, I'll go ahead and move for first reading and adoption.
I'll still second.
Have a motion, and a second. Any discussion?
I just wanna say that, this is very similar to the previous one. And this really is used quite frequently, and I feel confident in the information in here.
I was a little surprised that paragraph after number 3 says they may enter any grade. I assume that means regardless of age. And yes, that's all right. I was surprised to see that.
Is that transfers that they're talking about,
Transfers, yeah. Different districts.
but applies beyond the kindergarten and for that one? We're guessing.
I guess
Yeah, but
it's discretionary.
No, it specifically says upon evidence of satisfactory completing the requirements of the preceding grade. So it would be, like, if they come in saying they're, should be going into second grade. Can I use your granddaughter's example? Diane has a good example of her granddaughter who had been given early entrance into kindergarten, started kindergarten, did great, did the next grades, now is transferring to a different district. They took her age and said, nope, you need to go down a grade and go back to second grade. Because your age says, according to our records, that you should be in second grade, even though she's completed the requirements of second grade. By finishing second grade, she should be able to go into third. So this just allows us to say, if they have done the evidence of satisfactory completing the preceding grade, when they come to us, we would let them go to the next grade, even if their policy is like November 15th is their deadline, or, you know, different districts have different deadlines.
Within that range.
Yes.
And this certainly allows them to do that. It's just that it doesn't, it says any grade that they would be able to test for, I guess.
No, this is if they're transferring in from another district, so we're just using, like, what did you complete already? That would be the next grade to go in.
Any other discussion? Are you good, Richard, or did I ask you already?
Yes, Sam, thank you.
All right, so the motion is to, it's actually first read and readoption of JEBA as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Yeah, policy carries. All right, next up is a vote on the grievance hearing that we had, GR 0723-01. I would remind members that this was an executive session, so the details of the case don't need to be part of the motion.
Oh, do you want me to start voting?
We need a motion.
Okay.
There's maybe some language in there.
Yeah, I'm looking for my language in here.
Something like just move to support the support or not support the district decisions.
So I make a motion to uphold the superintendent's prior decision and interpretation of the contract language.
That's good. I like it.
I'll
Sorry,
second.
was that motion and a second, or?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Sorry, I just didn't hear. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
I,
All those opposed? That motion carries, thank you. I will have to coordinate with you or to generate a response. All right, we are down to item 5, which is superintendent and district operations report. Turn it over to Bill.
Right. Thank you for driving the presentation, Linda. And you'll rarely, if ever, hopefully not, if I start, any of these presentations without reminding us of the district mission and vision, and I need to be called on it. We are, and like I said, I really do appreciate the discussion and the conversations around our policies. This is just that great example of learning together. You know what I mean, to keep moving the district mission forward. So I appreciate that, because we'll continue to learn and we need to be able to have those conversations, at the table in order to do that. So thanks for that. This notion we talked about, purpose and possibility, we are really committed to being purposeful in our leadership this year. And we're committed to really exploring possibilities, and you'll hear that come up in a lot of different ways, being strength-based, asset-based. We've got challenges, but what are the strengths that we can bring to the solution? And, how do we celebrate, what's going well while we're working really, really hard, on those areas that we desperately want to improve. So a year of purpose and possibility, and thanks, Linda, for going to the next slide. Our purpose, for a superintendent and for a staff, the strategic plan that you've adopted is a powerful direction setter. And so I'm really proud of this group and our staff for embracing that and really saying, yep, this is the mission we're going to move, and putting plans in place to cause that to happen in their own settings and in their own buildings. So if you go around the buildings now, you remember last time we showed how we were working together. Go ahead, Linda. Now if you go in buildings, you'll see pretty intense planning at the building level, for moving theories of action forward around how to support the strategic plan. So what does the school improvement plan look like in the context of our strategic plan? And again, amidst the summer schools and activities and those types of things that are going on, your leaders are working really hard. You'll see these themes, you'll see this notion of relationship building in the interest of becoming warm demanders, relationship building in the interest of being able to hold each other to high expectations and high standards. And we all want to work for people that we like. And so when we have those relationships to draw on, then we know that especially true in the classroom, when kids like their teachers and they're feeling challenged, they'll knock down walls for them. Actually, we all operate pretty much the same way. So you will see in presentations, those themes and concepts of relationship building and warm demand, and that ability to show personal regard, getting to know each other well enough that we can show personal regard and work hard towards achieving high expectations and high standards. So go ahead, Linda. Do try to, as I travel, and I would, kind of encourage anyone to travel, as you travel around the district, look for those examples, where's your photo opportunity? Where do you see the vision and the district in play? And, that's in essence kind of a lens that I put on when I'm walking around our schools and enjoying the work that staff are doing on our kids' behalf. So you will see, this was just from this morning. I was talking to Desiree about that. This was our high school math team getting ready to implement that new high school math curriculum. You may have noticed that in the strategic plan, at some point, but they're given 5 days this week for training in math, some of it with the publisher and some of it with our coaches and consultants from the Teachers Development Group. And this week, you'll be able to see increasing examples of professional learning staff who are coming in to prepare and get ready. So the other thing that you will notice right now is this is a slide to kind of remind us all, Mitch Seckler is back, our Director of Safety and Security. And he has been systematically meeting with building leaders to kind of review and reflect on building plans for emergency responses and safety and security and reestablishing that role that, his role that we missed over the course of last year. We're starting to get some, you may recall we had a safety audit, you can kind of stand that one, a safety audit done by some folks from the ESD who came out and in their department, did some walkabouts in each of the buildings and on the grounds, and we're starting to get some of the reports back from them with some recommendations that, again, gives us some direction on some safety needs that we can improve, around our campuses and around the school.
Can I ask,
And I might just stop there for a second before we move to that next slide. Yeah.
who did you say did the safety audit?
The gentleman's name is Gene Biggs. He's the Willamette ESD has a whole department of safety and security, and they support districts in that regard. So he came out for a couple of days. We did some walkabouts, and he's working on trying to create some user-friendly reports, and so there'll be a site report for each of our buildings as well as kind of an overall ground report that goes with that.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions along those lines or any of the other things at this point?
Were there any other comments or deficiencies?
We have lots of things, we have lots of things that we've been that have been pointed out, and some things, that we can improve, some things just about kind of old facilities that become, you learn, oops, that probably isn't the safe thing. So, just thinking about how to systematically update some of
So
those
this
things.
is an example, commenting us about driving.
Right, yeah. And so it was just, there wasn't really a finding there, you know what I mean? Because we've got things posted and all of those kinds of things, but, the comment to the auditor was, and we still have a hard time getting people to follow the rules sometimes, you know what I mean? So, are there some other things that we might be thinking about along those lines? And so, because we had building staff do the walkabouts in each building with the, with the person who came out and did the audit with Gene. Okay, Linda, linked into this slide down at the bottom, and you may have gotten it by now, or you may not. Merle, I know you've been looking for more things to read. But at the conference, they promised that the OSBA COSA legislative report would be coming out, and it came out a week or so ago. And there is lots of great reading in that report, and there are lots of bills that have to go through some work groups and get some rules created for, and they will eventually come to us in various policy updates in those areas where we need to update policies. I just kind of noted 3 bills here that are, high on a lot of people's minds and radars right now. House Bill 3198 is the Early Literacy Success Initiative. So we've been thinking a lot about that. Merle was going to go to the early literacy framework, session. We're all learning about what the guidance is around early literacy that's coming out and what that looks like in our schools and how to support that. But we also know that there will be some early literacy success grants available. So we will have some resources that we'll apply for and have the opportunity to get some support from that. For our, primarily our K2 learners in early literacy. So those are things, that's coming, and I know you've heard a lot about early literacy initiative. Senate Bill 819 has been a very controversial Senate bill over the course of, you know, the last year since it's been sort of being talked about and drafted. Is 819 is creating job security for Cheryl. Because it's related to students, you know, in special education and on 504s. Many of our children have been on abbreviated days for one reason or another, usually very thoughtfully, you know, on shorter school days based on, you know, certain disabilities or conditions or, you know, medical, you know, situations. But 819, in essence, it says unless you have parents' permission, you can't have children on an abbreviated day. So if, of course, students and families who are wishing a full day, they have to be provided a full day of instruction. And probably the biggest work is that, you know, even you have to keep checking in, you know, with families. And so there are many extra meetings involved for folks for kids and families that might be on abbreviated days or, you know, again, not on abbreviated days.
Did they give us any money for that?
Oh,
Yeah.
at the OSBA conference, so, yeah.
Yeah, no, that was actually one of the things that we were trying to share a little bit during budget season last year, where there was like, you know, yeah, there's more money here and some things are gonna cost us a little bit more over here, even based on legislation. So sometimes it turns out to be a little bit of a lot. But I don't know, Cheryl, if you wanted to share anything about that or say anything about that?
Yeah,
or-
we've got good systems in place. We've got good neighboring districts and we're pulling all kind of together to create our systems. And so we'll have trainings this week for both IEP case managers and 504 case managers. We have forms created, we have processes, and so we're going to be tracking. And we're in the single digits for as many kids as we're kind of considering, and we'll have conversations around for going into this school year. So when you think about percentage wise, it is a very, very small percentage of students where we will have those conversations, and then those IEP teams will make those decisions moving forward.
So thanks for that, and Cheryl has done a fantastic job of getting that team together and getting out in front of things so that we're prepared for that. And then Senate Bill 283 is, you know, it might be one that you want to look at in that legislative report, because it's got like 1,000 things in it. It's a workforce development bill, but they put just about everything on the planet in there. And so there's lots of things that we'll be working through and lots of logistics to work through, especially as some of the rules become a little bit clearer. But one of the things that appeared in that bill that's already impacting us, is why I share it, is because they're included in the bill is just cause protection for classified staff. So we have classified contract that in essence says during a probation period, you know what I mean, you could release a staff member or non-renew a staff member's contract for any reason. And this bill in essence says you no longer can do that. You have to have just cause regardless of where the person is in their work experience in the district. So our contract is out of alignment with that bill right now. We're already starting to prepare for conversations with our classified association to talk about what kind of remedies we might have for that. So that one is on our plate right now, and we'll have a little bit of work to do with that. Actually, all the So that's one of the ones where all the lawyers are trying to figure out, how are we gonna do this? What are some of the possible solutions that districts might engage in with their association? And so anyway, those are three. There's, there are plenty, and we'll have a chance to kind of work through and talk about others as they start to come up and impact our work. So I'll stop there for a second. I don't know if there's any questions or wondering. So the next slide is kind of fun. One of our longitudinal performance growth targets around in the integrated plan is around students' access to college credit courses. And Deanne just got this. I know you can't see very well on this, but you've got the copy. Probably you can't see my arrow, but that's about all you can see. But it shows for the college credit now. This came from Chemeketa. This is data that comes from Chemeketa that supports our college credit now students. And you can see in this document, how well our students have done around accessing that college credit now. And it kind of helps to put it in the context of comparisons with some others. But that notion of we had 119 students, involved. That 385 number means that some of them take more than one course. So we've had 119 students, but some of them may take 2 or 3 or 4 courses for college credit. And, 1,631 credits earned. So that's, again, you can see in the context in which that we're speaking, that's a really good number. And so one of the things that we did commit to was, really kind of paying attention to who is having access to those. So we've got a little disaggregation to do with this data. It's pretty new to kind of see who's accessing. And some of our action then is to see how we can, if there are groups of students who aren't accessing this, to think about how we move that. And Dan, I know you spent a day with folks over here. Did you want to share anything about that?
Yeah, it just, it was really interesting to see that document handed out, and the schools that have higher amount of credits earned are really large schools. And we are just right in there, and that makes us very proud of what our staff is doing. And to keep in mind that this does not include the courses of Willamette Promise. So this is just the Chemeketa classes. And we still have more with the Willamette Promises, because we have computers and writing and Spanish. So if you add all that up, it really jacks it up and saves our community lots of money. And we are really focusing on our focus groups that are trying to get them in and changing the ones that are in ELD, we're putting their language into a content area so they have room to add more electives and other higher level classes. So their ELD doesn't take an elective slot where they can take more classes. So I'm just really proud when I saw that data. I think I came running down the hall.
Awesome. Yeah, that's so good. That's so good.
So when are you on tracking most of these kids into this credit stuff? I know they're probably taking those classes as juniors and seniors, correct?
Some can take them as sophomores, and there's a couple that can take as freshmen.
So are you projecting those when they, do they still do projections out for the 3 or 4 years ahead? In terms of choosing kind of a career path or a path for studies?
We work on their 4-year plans, and so they kind of look at.
So you're integrating them probably when they get to the building.
We try, some of them change and shift, which is expected,
Sure.
but we try to really, when we're doing our forecasting, we project out, like, if this is we have a document in our curriculum guide that says, if this is what you wanna do, you gotta look at these courses. And if you wanna go in the trade, you gotta look at these courses, and so kind of, we're really changing the information we're giving out.
Yeah.
So they can start looking at it a lot younger age. Even though they'll change, but that's okay.
Sure, well, and kids, it is kids prerogative, but that's a substantial amount of credits earned by
Yes,
our kids for this size of district. I know, I mean,
Yeah.
my daughter earned a lot of
Yeah.
credits, both my daughters,
Yeah.
and so I,
Same.
can see what you know, what impact it makes, it's huge,
It's
but,
huge. The other thing to keep in mind is that when we are asking them for taking college credits, we have to look at what their focus will be in college. Because if they take college credit that does not go in their pathway to their focus, they lose financial aid.
okay,
So we used to offer PE help as a college credit. We started removing that because we didn't want any option of them losing any financial aid once they got to college.
sure.
So we make them more of the core classes.
And that's knowing that, you know, how the system operates, how the credits operate, how they're, and maximizing it the best way you can for the kids, so.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm gonna just say with Christine, our pocketbooks say thank you.
Oh, very good. And the last slide, this was kind of late breaking, so I added it here, you know, at the end of the report. Because it's about 3 o'clock or so this afternoon, we got the proposal from OSBA for the policy rewrite. So that is linked in here. I had a chance to work with Spencer Lewis and Rick Stuckey a little bit during the conference, and then some follow-up last week. And so they do have the board had approved moving ahead, you know, with a rewrite, providing that we can see, you know, clean and, you know, what was cleaned.
Yeah.
Copy. And so Rick had shared some examples of that with me, and it really is just a Word, they'll come in Word documents, so they'll be clean, that you just toggle over to, you'll be able to toggle over to where the markups were, so you can just kind of go back and forth and see, you know, what changes were made or recommended. And so we've had to do a little bit of a kind of think through on this, just because of the way things happen. So, you know, so they'll send us something, we need to adopt and, you know, make decisions. And or, you know, if we have some alterations, Rick and Spencer will work with me, you know what I mean, around certain, you know, if they're wondering a few things. And then we send them back and they upload them to their, you know, to their website, to the policy book. But as Rick was saying, it's kind of like, well, you know, you have some policies that that don't need to be changed. You know, so in essence, what we'll be doing is, after we get their policy recommendations, with the policies that they're, you know, that they're editing, and we get ready to send them back, we'll send everything back, you know, so that they have the right adoption date, you know, on it. So there'll be some policies that we've recently updated, so they won't be in there, but we want to get a full update this year. So that's there, like I said, just got it, and you can kind of read through it there, you know what I mean, there's a lot of words. But I've, you know, seen kind of what the example looks like, so I'm pretty confident that it's what the board was asking for.
So do you need a motion on this?
You could make a motion if you wanted to, but you know, my sense was you approved the rewrite at our last meeting, that I just said, I'll bring you a copy of what the work is. And Lynn, I don't think we need, on that contract, do we need a?
No, we do not, Bill.
Yeah, I didn't think so. So, it's there, and if questions come up, feel free to ask me. And that, as you're probably going, dang, when's this guy gonna be done with this report?
No, it's good.
Is it, so.
Do you need a head count from us as to who might be attending, your new staff orientation, your breakfast, and no, we can just.
Yeah,
So,
you can send me, you know, it'd be great to send us a note
Okay.
if you're gonna come, you know, and then we'll be looking for you.
so that's an opportunity for board members to go meet with staff. He alluded to it, or actually you sent out the invitation with your last kind of board update. So those dates are listed in there. It's a great way to interact with staff. It's a great way to meet staff. It's a great way to meet new staff. And you know, you're certainly welcome to come. I've tried to make it a point to at least make some of them, so.
So, yeah, and Friday is our new staff orientation, probably from 7:30 to 8:30 is the time where there'll be some breakfast, some continental type breakfast, and then some welcomes and introductions and those types of things between 7:30 and 8:30. And we do have one thing, then the following Tuesday is the all staff welcome back on the 29th. And right now, we're slotted for the high school commons, but we're not sure that roof's gonna get done. So we're ready to pivot, as they say, to the middle school commons, for that. So
Okay.
film at 11 on that, you know what I mean, we'll keep folks posted, because we have to let everybody know that we may be over at the middle school for the all staff welcome back, rather than the high school. You notice there's some roofing going on up there.
Is the question is the August 25th event at the high school?
That will be right here in the middle school library. Thanks for that question, Richard.
Thank you.
Do any of these things from follow-up need to be discussed tonight? So the ELD textbook adoption, Irma, you're leading that. Is that the beginning of the process?
Yes.
Okay, so-
I'll be,
What's that?
I'll be, referring to that at the next working.
Okay, awesome. I have one question for you, Deanne. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm assuming you're gonna have student representation come give reports like we've had in the past. Do you have any idea has anybody been chosen for that role yet, or?
It will be Italy and Kate.
Okay. And so, say the second name again.
Kate.
Okay. So for the new board members, you probably saw that we have some student representation who comes, keeps us updated on all the things that are happening, which is really good. It's a good connection to our students. It's a good connection to all the activities that are happening at the high school, and especially post-pandemic. It's nice to see everything moving ahead at full speed.
So I have a question.
Sure.
So is the business meeting gonna be first, so they would know when to be here?
I think that's kind of where we've landed.
Okay.
I haven't officially pulled the board yet, but that seems to be like where we landed, and then you guys can have it dedicated. I mean, it'll be easier, much easier for timing.
Yes.
And it'll allow staff to go home too, because they don't need to sit here through all of our work session if we run late on that session.
It'd be easier on the kids.
Sure, we'll call that. But yes, so we do appreciate them coming. I know it's a time commitment for them to come, but it's a good connection, and so we appreciate them.
And they like it.
Yeah.
They like come and tell you what you're doing, what they're doing.
So the 22nd is confirmed?
No,
Okay.
that was my next thing.
That's why it's red.
Oh, okay. I was just double checking because I'm
I
like,
think that was the date that a few people could make it, but I'm not sure everybody could. Is that a conflict? That's a Friday. You can't be there? But, and the 23rd is out too? Okay. How about that weekend of the 27th, 28th? I think that's the following weekend.
it's the 29th, 30th.
29th, 30th, okay.
I'm traveling on the 29th.
Okay.
Second.
I'm gone the weekend of the 16th and the weekend of the 9th. I think I have a funeral on that Saturday, so.
We would also need time to prepare for it,
Totally, yeah.
so.
August is-
September 9th, not good for me.
No, that's not gonna be it.
Needs a
Glenda, I guess if others can make the 29th or 30th of September, I mean, let me know if I'm the only holdout and I may be able to move some things around.
I don't know, does that work for everybody? I hate to exclude somebody, but or at least the option.
What's the time frame of that, like
So we can kind of set it, it doesn't need to be both. We could do just a Saturday, a longer session on Saturday. What we've done some years is we've done a couple hours Friday evening and then like the morning up until then maybe even divided on the Saturday part of that. So it doesn't burn a whole day, or we can just go most of the day on Saturday. We've done that as well too. Is that accurate, Heidi? That's probably about what we've done, so, and I think we're gonna try and utilize the media center in high school, but I think that weekend is also homecoming weekend, right?
I believe something like that.
So you chaperone the dance.
You're always welcome, Mike.
However, we could find another venue if the date works for most everybody.
And one thing we talked, Deanna had talked about is, you know, when we meet and do our work sessions, we actually meet in that staff room area. You know, where,
Oh,
and we just set it up, you know, for that, so there's sort of that in the library area is not a bad.
Is that what we've done executive sessions in before?
No,
No?
that was the new staff. Yeah, but it's just the one that's off the office,
Okay.
but on a Saturday, they're probably gonna be.
Is that homecoming
And you know
day?
what, depending on what all you're
It's just the
covering
weekend
for
before.
I
training,
believe so, that's what I'm trying to
you
find.
might only need 4 hours.
Yeah.
You might only need 5 hours. So
efficient.
we have to, I think, figure out what we're gonna do first. If we're gonna
I will
get a
try to
facilitator,
make a
if we're
list of
gonna
my questions prior.
just work on our own work. No, I mean,
Yeah.
and it could be,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's shorter day.
Yeah, I stepped over to you. We could also, I mean, would we ever be open to doing like weeknights, 2 weeknights back to back or something, or?
Diane's disapproving. I mean, I'm fine with that 30th. Is there anything preventing us from moving it out in October so that we can attend or not? Richard?
No, we could move to October. It's just, again, things.
I don't know
fill
how
out.
much you wanna, yeah.
Yeah, if
What's
if
the
the
first
30th
weekend
works
in
for folks, I can be available on the 30th of September.
Sorry, what did you say, Diane?
What's the first weekend in October?
So the first full weekend in October
I think that's
is
homecoming.
the 7th.
That is homecoming.
The 7th is homecoming day. So the halls are being decorated though, 30th. Okay.
But if you guys are meeting in the office, the kids are not around at all,
Sure,
so you won't be interrupting anything that we're doing.
sure.
Yeah, I think the office space is big enough.
On the 30th?
So Richard, what did you say about the 30th? I didn't catch it all.
If everyone else is available on the 30th, I can be available on the 30th.
I hope you're not selling your concert tickets.
No, no, but thank you, yeah.
Okay.
Does that work for everybody else, 30th? Okay.
Marilyn's very quiet.
I don't plan that far.
We should look at Grace.
How about you, Bill? And Diane, is that weekend? Good.
Uh-oh.
Gotta coordinate it.
No.
Okay, well, tentatively, let's plan on the 30th, and then you and I can coordinate about what we think, program wise, with Bill, what would be the best, probably the best, training, so.
So one day, just do it all in one day, is that?
That's kind of what I'm hearing, is just do it on Saturday,
Get it done.
yeah. This one last day that we,
Pull everybody. I did have a quick question, and this can be afterwards, but the Tuesday board meetings, I'm not gonna be able to be on Tuesdays here.
Well, the Mondays are holidays.
So can we move those to a
Mondays.
Monday before or Monday after? Cause I absolutely cannot do Tuesdays.
Yeah, I probably won't be either, it's summer season, my husband works nights, so.
what is the holiday in November?
Veterans.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
but
the
it's Friday.
observed, that's the observed Veterans Day then, is that Monday, is that right?
It's observed on the tenth, it's a Friday, they're put on it.
Okay.
So I mean, we don't have to talk about it now, but
It's for Veterans Day.
It's a Friday's here.
We got a nightmare trying to figure out when it's observed, when it's on a Saturday. It is observed on a Friday that year. So we might, that might be
We
when,
could meet on Monday.
yeah, we could be on that.
Okay, so
Okay.
the November the 14th is a go,
13th.
or excuse me,
I'm
the
so-
13th, okay, that's a go. Okay. And then January 16th, I'm assuming is Martin Luther King
Mhm.
Day, okay. That's far enough out, we can adjust if we need to. A little bit ahead, so. Alrighty, if that's everything, I think we can probably gavel down. Yeah, so 7:21, so let's go ahead and adjourn unless somebody else has something else to say. Alright, we are adjourned then. Thanks everybody for coming out.